Our friend Merlin Wendelboe is back, and he says, it seems we conservatives are mostly concerned with freedom to do whatever we want as long as it does not inhibit the freedom of others, whereas liberals are concerned with freedom from frisbees, noise, work, responsibility, the rights of others, and so on. What are your thoughts on this? And might it make a firewall topic? It might. And what if I were to tell you this, Merlin? What if I were to turn that around completely and say that it was, you say conservatives are the ones who want the freedom to, and that liberals want the freedom from? What if I were to say to you that it's the progressives who want to be able to tax people, to control their lives, to tell them what to eat, what to wear, how fast to drive, where to live, how much money they can spend, how much electricity they can spend, all of that? While it's conservatives who want to be free from other people's interference, free from government intrusion, free from ridiculous taxation, free from all of these things. So I don't know if the to and the from thing is really quite as neat or sanitary as it may look. The more interesting question is, I think, and I know what you're reaching for, and not just reaching for. I know what you're saying, and you're right about one thing. We have different views of what freedom is. I think you nailed it in that first sentence of yours. We see freedom as something that applies to humanity, and that as a member of humanity, I want the same freedom as everybody else, but I don't much care what those people do with their freedom. It doesn't really matter to me. It only matters when it affects my freedom. It's a terrible, hoary old saw, but it's the best I've ever heard. Your freedom to swing your fist ends where my nose begins. So we look at freedom as something that is a quality that all people can share, and the idea of freedom is, if you want to do something, that's great. You want to dress up like a French maid, that's fine. I don't care. It doesn't bother me. Fine. But they don't think that way. For them, freedom means freedom from responsibility. The kind of freedom that progressives are talking about is the kind of freedom that they espouse for, what's his name? Almost said Milos Forman, but that's not it. My memory is not what it was, especially not today. Hang on a second. It's going to come up in the comment section. I just don't want the satisfaction of it. Hang on. Again, I've got the face right in front of me. Roman Polanski. That's the kind of freedom that progressives want. They want the Roman Polanski freedom. They want the freedom to do whatever they want to, do whatever drugs they want to, do whatever sexual activities they want to, spend whatever money they want to, and get away with it and not have to pay a price. They not only want the freedom of action, which we want, but I think the thing that really motivates them is they don't just want to be free from the restraints of morality. They want to live in a world where those restraints of morality don't exist. And that's a subtle difference, but it's a really critical one. So what I'm saying is, it's not just that they want to be able to get away with behaviors that most people consider immoral. They certainly want that. They also want to live in a world where the entire idea of immorality doesn't exist. And you would ask yourself, why is that? Right? I mean, look, if you could get away with whatever you want to, and you granted that to somebody, people like you and I would say, really, well, then I guess I'll do what I want to do. I don't much care about other people. But they're so insecure, they're so emotionally crippled, that not only do they want to be able to do whatever they want to, they cannot bear the fact that other people are behaving to a higher standard than they are. And they can't bear the fact that other people are capable of resisting temptations that they can't resist. So therefore, let's eliminate all restrictions on everything. And that way we can all be as loathsome as I am as a progressive. That way, if everybody can do whatever they want to, then everybody is as morally reprehensible as I am, and then I don't feel so bad. I think I talked about this, was it last week or week before, where I was at a party in my senior year, and everybody's passing a joint around, and I just said, no, thanks. And it wasn't like, how dare you? It was, no, I just, no, thanks. And that just put a stop on the evening. And everybody pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, because I had to actually take a hit on this joint, because if I didn't understand why. I really, honestly, I was like, what is the big deal here, guys? Just, no, okay, thank you, no. Why? Well, because somebody was making a stand. Not to make a stand, and not to lecture anybody or wag any, or I'm going to call the cops. No, it's not for me. Knock yourself out. That kind of thing drives them nuts, and so that can't be allowed. And that's what's interesting too, Merlin, if you think about it, this really is an interesting point. They don't just want to be free of morality, they want to destroy morality, whether it applies to them or not. Which is why the whole thing with the wedding cake is such an interesting example, right? It's not just that these people could have gotten another cake. The idea that there is somebody out there in the world, or somebody within their reach anyway, who has a religious belief that goes against their moral code or their personal experience, whatever the case, whatever their moral code isn't. But if there's a person out there ready to make a stand for a religious belief, that person has to be destroyed. Because not only do they disagree with the decision to not bake the cake, they disagree that he should have had a choice in the first place. In other words, he should not have had a chance to make a moral decision. It should have been simply preordained that he will be forced to do these things. This is the world they want to live in. It's perfect. I've heard it so many times, I don't know how you improve this sentence. Here's what the left wants. The left wants to live in a world where everything that is not forbidden is mandatory. Think about that for a second. Everything that is not forbidden is mandatory. What is that saying? That's saying there's no choice. There's no choice to do anything. There is no freedom. You either have to do this or you cannot do this. There's no middle ground. These things you cannot do, and these things you must do, and there's nothing left. Every single action and every single decision falls into either forbidden or mandatory. And this is the world they want. They want a world where people cannot make their own decisions because it bothers them on a childlike emotional level. It bothers them the same way. Yeah, have you ever seen that video, that viral video of these two dogs, and this guy comes home, and it's been a while, but something's all torn up, and he's got these two dogs there, and he's looking at these dogs, and he says to the dogs, which one of you did it? And the one dog's just looking up and wagging its tail, and the other dog is looking away, and the dog can tell that the guy's angry. Did you tear it up, Simon? And what about you, Mark? Did you tear it up? And the dog looks away and starts howling, and its guilt is so obvious. It's hilarious, actually. I highly recommend it. It's very funny. But it's that obvious, you know? They know they're guilty, and they know that they've got no moral code, and on some level, on a major level, it bugs the living daylights out of them that somebody does have a moral code, and so that moral code has to be destroyed. Let's see.